everyone. Welcome to another Music Talk Tuesday, and today I thought it would be interesting to briefly address something that is a little bit more general when it comes to music, and I think is something that has really profoundly changed the industry and has really impacted the way in which we listen to music or choose certain songs to listen to. And I think as a result, this has made music a lot more accessible and therefore a lot more cheapable or cheaper. Excuse me, cheapable. I meant to say cheaper. So without further ado, let me discuss some of these points that I think are important into what sort of shaped music into what it is today as opposed to what it was back in the day, even back when the 90s were around. Uh, First thing first being the internet. Um, the internet has really made it fairly easy for people to access music. Um, and and that involves the purchasing of music as well as actually being able to listen to the music. Um, and this has evolved through a variety of mediums throughout the internet. One, we have sites like Pandora and Spotify, who are really popular at the moment, and they're for free. You can literally go onto Pandora or to Spotify and choose whatever songs you want to listen to, and even on Spotify you can choose your own playlists of what you want to listen to. Actually, I think Pandora is maybe a little bit more exclusive in how it selects the playlists. I'm not sure exactly how Pandora works. I'm more familiar with Spotify because I actually use Spotify, and I heard Spotify is actually better than Pandora, so I'm not all that familiar with it, but they are these kind of two similar mediums where you have complete and total music access for free. You don't have to pay for it unless you want it to be ad-free, and when it's ad-free you pay a certain amount. It's like a subscription fee. So it's kind of become like radio almost, where you'll have a playlist and then suddenly a 30-second commercial will come up and that'll be it. And it's all through the internet, all online. And I find that to be so fascinating, and I think it definitely um, revolutionized the way in which we explore music. Now, again, there might be confrontations between artists and these groups like Spotify. I think apparently Taylor Swift was mad at Spotify because I guess they weren't paying her enough for whatever reason, which I don't understand. I think Taylor Swift has got all the money in the world. I mean, apparently right now, I don't know why she would need more, but beats me. But I guess the amount that they were paying her wasn't enough. So that's why she decided not to be part of Spotify. So there are certain limitations onto particular artists, but for the most part, I found on Spotify I can access pretty much all the music that I want to listen to. But there might be some limits into regards to certain songs or certain bands. So again, that might be a detour for some people, and as to um, why they wouldn't be willing to sort of, I guess, participate, even though it is for free. But yeah, these two ones in particular, I think really did revolutionize music to the point where we have it now. Um, but I think if you want to go back to really what made music um, a little bit more accessible and therefore a little bit more cheaper, you have to go to iTunes. iTunes really was the start of this with the iPods. This whole little player that would play your music. And that's basically where you would get your music from. And that's usually where people went to go get music, relatively speaking, in the 2000s. Usually the music was $1, so it wasn't all that expensive. But again, when you look at 10 songs, that's $10. So it still kind of amounted to a little bit when it came to purchasing a song. That's why I think iTunes has sort of deterred itself in that sense by sort of expanding their like lineup by, you know, offering movies and games and things like that, you know, to try to even things out because they know that people can access it a whole lot easier for free than for paying for it. And this is where we get into YouTube being the sort of big break for music videos. Because it used to be for music videos would be showcased on television during the 80s and 90s when we had MTV. But ever since MTV went away, YouTube was really the starting point for music videos. Music videos are highly known on YouTube and always get a lot of attention, especially if it's from someone who's fairly popular or well recognized. Usually you will see the charts be really high in regards to the view count. So YouTube really did bring forth the music videos. It did bring it back, but it didn't bring it back to MTV. It brought it to a whole different medium, being the internet. And that was also for free, for which people could access. All they would have to do is watch an ad. And then people started complaining about having to watch the ads, so YouTube created a skip ad button for people to skip the ads. And that's pretty much where we have it up to now with the options when it comes to viewing music. It's either largely through YouTube, Spotify, or Pandora. Also through other mediums of social media like, you know, Twitter or Facebook and stuff. Having pages like that for a band is very important, especially if you want to emphasize a concert or a performance that you're showcasing. Social media really does let you get engaged with your audience and really allows you to develop sort of this kind of business consumer relationship. And that has revolutionized music and made it a lot cheaper for bands to more showcase their work because, again, social media is for free. It doesn't cost you anything unless you want to promote your band on Twitter or on different social media pages and you want to get more views, then yeah, you're probably going to have to pay a little bit. But the exposure amount is pretty much at anybody's disposal, regardless of money. So that's really what has made music a lot cheaper and a lot more accessible over the years. It has been the revolution that we know as the internet. The internet really did bring music to this whole new realm and to this whole new playing field. Also the fact too that we had, you know, internet phones as well. So now you can just access music from the internet on your phone as opposed to just having the iPod. So I think that's why too iTunes kind of went down hill because with the iPods, people weren't really buying them all that much anymore because now they can just use their phones to access whatever songs they want to access them and expose themselves to. And they can either do this for free or they can choose to pay for it, I guess, using iTunes too. But again, it's one of those things where the kinds of applications just make it so that people don't ultimately have to pay a price for anything. But there's still kind of that risk where people feel that maybe that their privacy will be exposed if they give um, the companies that make these particular applications like Spotify and like Pandora, if they give them their data, they'll ultimately use that data to, send it off to people in order for them to sell you different things. And that is something that I think can be a big privacy issue for me, or not for me, but for some people. For me, actually, I don't really care, just as long as they don't use this for malicious reasons. Then I'm totally fine. Just as long as they, don't, hijack my important information. Then yeah, I mean, I'm totally okay with whatever they want to pitch to me. I'll listen, but if it's something that's not worth my time, then I'm not going to listen to it. I'm just going to ignore it. So again, it's just one of those things where people are being able to be niched out, I think, a little bit more readily and a lot more easily through music than we were able to before, because now, we can get sort of, recommendations on YouTube of things that would probably interest us. We can, we can have songs that sort of reflect onto what we want to ultimately listen to. And again, also what we have to understand too is that originally and within the 90s, you would have to buy an album because a CD would come on an album and you had to buy all of those songs that were on that album. And now you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to buy a whole album if you don't want to. You can just buy whatever the songs you want or listen to them for free, at least the ones that are fairly popular or have a music video or are easily accessible on Spotify or Pandora. So it is becoming a lot more easy to access market, and it's becoming a lot more useful for people to find their sort of own identity. Like they have their own sort of freedom. And I think that's the interesting thing about music when it comes to the internet. We have more options than we've ever had before when it comes to what we want to choose to listen to. And I think that is clearly established when you see people just sort of choosing whatever they want to listen to and not being forced to buy a whole album or forced to pay in one way or another. And I think it's great too that, I mean, artists I think can still make their money, musicians. I mean, I think they still can make a ton of money. And I think artists like Taylor Swift and all of those other famous people are still proof that making music is still a very profitable industry to be in. It's just changed because it's not based around the same things that it used to be. It's not based around an album so much as it is based around people's preferences of songs and preferences of musicians. And I think people would be willing to support artists and go out and see them for a concert for whatever price the artist is willing to choose. So again, I think there's still a lot of money that can be made from music. It's just going to be different. It's not going to be the same as it was before. And I think the internet has brought about this change. And as a result, we're getting to be able to be more accessible, which I think is a good thing because the more access you have to an audience, the more potential you are to get people who are invested in what you perform or what you do as a musician. So yeah, I think it's definitely a really interesting topic. I think it's something that should be focused on, um, and I'm sure there's some um, issues that might come up for those who think that um, consumers should have to pay to listen to a song, or they shouldn't have to pay. I think there's a lot of debate that happens when he goes with that. But then at the same time, it's like you hear the song on the radio, and then, okay, did I listen to that song for free now, or so it's kind of it's just kind of difficult to explain. But I think this kind of radio style of just incorporating a commercial now and then is probably going to be, and putting them up on YouTube and, displaying ads and things like that, is probably going to be the future of music and where its profits are going to come from. Largely through the internet, largely through mobile phones, largely through people choosing ultimately what they want to listen to. And I think that's a very cool thing. And I think that having more access will ultimately lead artists to have a greater following and a greater investment into what they ultimately produce. So again, I think it's just not the same as it used to be. It's not the record label anymore. It is a different ball game, and I think some people might have a hard time adjusting to that, and I totally understand from the older generation's perspective. This would be so crazy in the direction that music has gone that it would probably be hard for older generations to adjust. But I think once you've retired with your millions, you don't care who listens to your song anymore. You're just like, yeah, okay, okay, Spotify, you want to go and make my songs for free online? Yeah, sure. Okay, do I get maybe a little bit of cut of profit? All right, cool. That's how I think some of the older generation is, because usually on Spotify I will see a lot of older songs or songs that have been around for a really long time. So again, it's just one of those things where you just kind of have to take it for what it's worth, and ultimately decide how you want to invest in this future that we're in when it comes to music being on the internet and being more accessible and not as expensive as it used to be, and not as much of a hassle. You don't have to buy a CD and then take these things out of the CD and put the CD in. You just go on the internet, find your song. Okay, I add that to my playlist. Add that to my playlist. It's literally like shopping, but you're doing it for free. You don't need to pay anything, which I think is great. But yeah, I'm sure there's still some privacy concerns over such sites though, like Spotify and such, and I totally understand that. But for me personally, I don't find it so. I guess I don't find it as invading as maybe some other things that are on the internet. But yeah, I think that's really ultimately my whole perspective on music becoming more accessible, and the music industry changing over the years. And yeah, I'd be more than happy to hear all of your guys' perspectives on this topic. But I think that's ultimately all I can say about it. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.